settle in. Story time. I'm running for council. Spoiler alert, I lost. By a grand total of... So we live in a small rural town in Alberta, Canada. Population of about 5,000. In Alberta, every municipality has their election on the same day, same night. And every municipality votes in one mayor and 6 councillors. And in 2021, the election date for Alberta municipalities was October 18th. And over the course of the summer, I began to get approached by various individuals in the community saying, you really should think about running for council. And after much thought and consideration, we decided, okay, I'll put my name out there and I'll run. Now, to complicate matters, the Canadian federal government called an election that summer for almost exactly 1 month before the municipal election date, September 20th. This meant it was pretty much impossible, very impractical, to do any campaigning before that date, which gave us exactly pretty much 4 weeks of campaigning. Our plan was to save money on physical promotion strategies, things like pamphlets and lawn signs, and instead funnel our resources into dominating on social media, specifically on Facebook. So the idea was to have 4 sets of video ads, 1 new ad every week. Ideally, each ad would reach everyone using Facebook in town in that week period, at least a couple times. And each week's videos could introduce new elements of my platform. But almost right away, we ran into a hitch. See, in order to run political ads on Facebook, you need your account to be verified. Running political ads without account verification is a sure way to get your Facebook account banned from ever running ads on Facebook ever again. And I didn't want that. And I knew this going in ahead of time, but what I didn't factor in was that Facebook would send me a physical envelope with a code on it that then I would need to put into the system to verify my identification, and specifically how long that envelope would take to reach me. And long story short, I didn't end up getting my account verified until 1 week into the campaign. So our 4-week strategy just became a 3-week strategy. So the campaigning that ended up happening during week 1 was buying a handful of signs and distributing them at strategic intersections around town. Going into week 2, I launched our first Facebook ad, a feel-good, inspirational advertising piece that introduced why I was running and my vision for the town.
What if we focused on what was here in front of us? Not changing the world, but focusing on the place we call home. On October 18th, vote for change. Vote for hope.
Now, in our town's past municipal elections, there really weren't very many signs. But going into week 2 of this election, things were a little different. And it was pretty clear that the sign war was just measuring up, because every time we drove by an intersection, there were more signs. And candidates that had relied on maybe a dozen signs last election, this election, in some cases, had near 100 signs each. The sign war was getting crazy. And so it started to become clear we probably needed a few more signs. But there was a problem. If we had known that we needed more signs, say a month ahead of time, we could have ordered them in bulk at a very discounted rate. But now that we needed them tomorrow, it turns out that when you need a small quantity of signs on a fast turnaround, signs are unexpectedly expensive. But as the week wore on, more and more signs were going up, but we needed the rest of our budget to run our Facebook ads. We would just have to make up for our lack of signs with an overwhelming social media presence. And before we get too far, I just wanted to correct one common misunderstanding about marketing and advertising. We can tend to think of marketing and advertising as creating demand, but that's not actually how it works. Marketing cannot generate demand. It can only tap demand that already exists. And in the world of politics, this means that exposure, which is what marketing creates, is not what actually makes a candidate win, but how well a candidate's platform and promise fit with a pre-existing desire in the voter. However, a lack of exposure can result in a candidate's losing an election, because without exposure to a candidate's platform, a voter will have no idea whether their promises are a good fit for their pre-existing desire. The Didsbury municipal election is in less than 2 weeks. As we launched our second set of video ads, I got a phone call from my dad, and he said, "We were driving through town and we noticed you don't have very many signs. We think you need more signs, and so we're gonna donate to your campaign and help you get some more signs on these important intersections." But with that obstacle overcome, I found myself facing a totally unexpected hurdle. I found myself on phone calls and in conversations with influential people in town whom I had never met, and everyone was trying to persuade me, and everyone had their spin. I could no longer discern motives. I had no idea who to trust, who was being honest, and I had no idea who was trying to manipulate me. And it just really caught me off guard. I was flying blind. Week 4, the home stretch, the last week before voting day. We launched our final set of ads. This set of ads just generally tried to be helpful to the voter. "Hello, Didsbury. I just thought that I should make a video about how, when, where, what, all the voting questions." I don't even remember what I did on voting day other than going and voting, of course. Honestly, I think we just did a normal day, you know, other than making a few Facebook posts encouraging people to go out and vote, answering a few people's questions who were asking some last-minute questions about how to vote. I think it was just a normal work day. Now, in a small town like ours, there's no gradual pulling out of numbers because there's only one polling place. When that polling place closes and they've made their count, you know who won. And it's actually rather anticlimactic. Theoretically, they just released the numbers, but in this case, they were actually a little hard to find. Eventually, we did find them. Kurt Engel, 876 votes. Dorothy Moore, 772 votes. Bill Windsor, 688 votes. Ethan Williams, 678. Joyce McCoy, 647. John Baswick, 593. Dallas Lammerman, 562. That is 31 votes. So I lost. I was almost elected, almost on council, by a margin of 31 votes. And honestly, it was a relief because as the election drew closer, the bigger we realized the problems that we had wanted to tackle were and how deep the roots of some of the things that needed to be dealt with were, and how much of a fight and how much work and how much stress it was going to be. And as we read through the list of the elected candidates, we realized how we just weren't on the same page. And even though we knew it would be a lot of work and it would be very difficult going in, the closer we got, the bigger it got, and the more we realized, and how do you say this? Like, we realized that if God wanted us there, we were going to dive in, go head first, give it everything, and that in all likelihood, everything else was going to get totally side-railed, set on the side. There was going to be no time for that at all in the next 5 years. Whereas in all honesty, I would be rather making YouTube videos like I am right now. That's a lot funner. And even as I look back on it now, I'm starting to see that I think I can actually be of more benefit to my community, more benefit to the town, more benefit to the world, other ways. Like this right here. We have done a lot of things, and we have failed at a lot of those things. From creating a feature film for less than $5,000, creating 2 feature films in 1 year, starting a not-for-profit, trying to build an online course, photography businesses, you name it. We are going to be sharing those stories of failure, things that we've tried that have been really hard, because every single one of them, when we were doing them, we felt like that was where God wanted us to be. But even when those things ultimately failed, the lessons we learned were invaluable. Things that would have been very difficult to learn, if not impossible, had we not tried. We're gonna have a lot of those failure stories coming soon. Until then, you might be wondering, how on earth do you fail at all those things? Trying to start businesses, that sounds like a crazy inconsistent income. How do you survive? This video right here answers that question. I'd love to see you there. Until next time.